Hello. Hello and good day to everyone. This is Grandmaster Arturs Neiksans and I'm back with my weekly puzzle. Wait a second, it's not weekly puzzle fix. Yeah, this is. Yeah, this was an automated response. Yeah, it's not weekly puzzle fix. I apologize. That was my previous show, which I typically organize every Wednesday. This is my bootcamp. Yeah, first time I made this mistake. Every Friday, I'm doing a bootcamp. Organize various interesting topics and we discuss everything related to them. Last week, I believe, I had Dutch defense. So you can still check the archive, and if you were there, if you were following it live, I hope you liked it. And before that, I believe I had Sicilian Taimanov, and I covered various openings, including the trilogy of my written databases for modern chess. And today, I decided to try something new. So today's topic is going to be the power of the two bishops. Why is that important? The power of the two bishops typically arises from quite many openings. Hi, chess guy. For example, let's say, there's the two knights variation in the Sicilian. No, sorry, that's not the Sicilian, but Carlsen. So e4, c6, knight c3, d5, and knight f3. While there are several continuations in black's disposal, typically black here plays bishop g4, h3, captures on f3, queen f3, and other plays knight e6 or e6. To be honest, I really don't know the subtle difference between these two moves, but still the bottom line is this. Yeah, I see you found some of my emails there, chess guy. Yeah, and the bottom line is this. You do get two bishop advantage. And I've been a chess coach for about 10 years. And during this time, my understanding of how I perceive chess and how I teach the children has changed, has improved, I believe so. And I've came to appreciate the power of the two bishops. And I sort of borrowed this idea from, which I believe is a Russian school belief, I think so at least, that they treat a bishop as not worth 3 points, but 3.5. And that's actually quite interesting because when we imagine the last games we played, you can imagine yourself the last games you played, and could you answer how many of them finished with an open position and how many of them had a closed character until the end of the game? And I'm pretty sure you'll realize that most of the games will open. They tend to open. So I could just conjure up a number out of the thin air, but I would say it's about, I don't know, 95% perhaps. The position is going to open, and very rarely the position is remaining closed. And by that, it means that the bishops are essentially stronger in open positions. So perhaps we can show you some very simple examples. Yeah, okay, let me try to, how do I put an empty board? Setup. Okay, like this. So for example, let's say we are gonna have some kind of standard position. Doesn't matter what is on the, what is not on the king side. Let's say each side has 4 pawns at the king side. Of course, we probably need to add a king. White has the bishop on f3, and black has the knight on f6. And of course, there are some other pieces as well. Typically, this position is very much fine for black. Actually, I think black is better. But how do we evaluate which piece is better? It's very simple, actually. How many pieces, how many squares controls each piece. So for example, if we count the bishop essentially controls maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, and protects these pawns which probably don't count. And the knight is 1, sorry about that, 2, 3, if I would move the knight, 4, 5, 6, and 7 under attack. So technically the knight is already controlling more squares than the bishop, and it is attacking the pawn while the bishop is defending. Let's set up a different position. For example, where the bishop would dominate the knight. Let's say probably the worst position for black would be to have the knight on the rim of the board. Let's say something like this. Pawns could be here. I could have pawns here. And let's say bishop on d5, king on whatever, g8, h8, and king g1, for example, like this. And if we think about this position, okay, here technically the knight is trapped, right? But it's like 1, 2, again, I'm so bad with arrows. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it, just 4 moves. But let's calculate the power of the bishop. How many squares does it control? I mean, it's gonna be so many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So if you add another bishop here on d4 or on e5, that's going to be pretty much half of the board. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Hydrate, very important. Yeah, I agree. And this is actually a secret by some chess professionals, that they tend to play out the openings which have quite a solid reputation, but at least they get the 2 bishop advantage. So let's move on to some examples and I'll show you what I mean. So for example, let's see the semi-Slav. I've played this myself quite a number of times myself with white. So after d4, d5, c4, c6, knight f3, knight f6. We are not gonna go for the crazy lines with the Botvinnik Moscow variation. After d takes on c4 and b5, black keeps the pawn. So we are just gonna play it simple. e3. Bishop typically goes either on f5 or on g4. Of course, there's e6 move as well. But okay, for the sake of our today's topic, I'm gonna suggest to play bishop f5, knight c3, e6. So here white typically plays bishop h4. So black has a choice to play either bishop e4 or bishop g6. And let's say black is going to play bishop g6, takes and takes. Now, yeah, I'm pawn grabber. Now let's have a look at this position. Imagine yourself in black shoes. So you have to play this from black. And would you play it? Many people do. Many people choose this continuation as a black's repertoire. But I've always been slightly concerned when it comes to having a clear game plan, while black's position is super solid. I mean, black has no weaknesses, right? I mean, he's gonna position his knight on d7, he could play bishop d6, he could play short castle, queen c7, many good moves. But the problem is gonna be this. As soon as it's gonna come to an actual game plan and playing active, black is gonna make weaknesses, push pawns forward, and increase the power of the white's bishops. So let's try to play this out. For example, something like this. Let's say knight d7. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, it's white to move. Okay, I'm gonna play something very simple. Let's say bishop e2. Simple developing moves. Bishop d6, h3, castle. I don't pretend they're the best. So let's try to play something like b3, bishop b2, queen c2, rook d1. I could prepare to play e4. And now let's imagine yourself again in black shoes. So white is doing all of these slow preparation moves and slowly gathering the pieces to the center and preparing to c4. What is black gonna do? So he has to pretty much organize something active, and pretty much at every given time, any active game plan is linked with a pawn push. If you don't have a pawn push, it's very difficult to go for an active game plan. For example, so black could play either c5 or e5. Okay, so let's say black is going to try to play e5. Then we just happily take it on d5, take it on e5, or maybe knight b5 was important intermezzo. Okay, maybe that's... Yeah, okay, let's try this. Knight b5, bishop b8, captures, bishop, and for the sake of simplicity, again, knight d4, bishop b2, bishop f3, and all of a sudden, not only white has very powerful bishops, black has created an isolated pawn on d5. Okay, so that's a weakness. So black wouldn't want to create a weakness, right? Okay, so he might think about playing, let's say, c5. And again, we can capture on d5. Let's say take with the knight, takes, 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 takes. We are not going to take this pawn because there's going to be a discovered check, bishop b2. And again, we have a powerful bishop here. We are going to have a powerful bishop there. This pawn is weak forever. So what should black do here? So imagine yourself. You are playing as black here. Yeah, let me try to move this position. And essentially, in these types of positions, black has to be very, very careful not to make any committal moves. D takes, B takes e5 doesn't give black an isolated pawn, but it gives up the strong center. What else is there? There is no g5, g4. f5, I mean, maybe somehow I could try to rearrange the knight, God knows where. I mean, I don't know, maybe knight e8, f5, but it's not clear what black is even threatening. And this is the problem. This is the problem of the so-called solid openings, typically that black is playing, that he is not having these active possibilities to play later. Because white can play it forever. You might think, I mean, I can be patient if I'm playing black, right? It's not really that simple because let's say you're playing with black and yeah, okay, I'm not going to push e5 and c5. I'm going to play something else. Okay, let's say maybe queen e7 with some idea to exchange the bishops to remove for white this opportunity to have the two bishop pair. I could actually play something like a3. I don't know, looks ridiculous, but it stops this idea of bishop trade. So black plays something like, I don't know, rook d8, bishop b2, rook e8, queen c2. And the question is, I mean, how long are you going to continue with this, with black? You have to do something. I mean, you cannot really watch. Okay, we can try, right? We can try, just sit and watch. Let's say a6. I could still play, I don't know, what should I play here? Probably e4. Probably, okay, e4 runs into e5 unexpectedly. Okay, then probably I need to include, yeah, maybe b4. Maybe b4, and black is still waiting solidly and doing nothing. I could still play rook d1, black is doing nothing. I can still play rook e1, black is doing nothing. I can still improve, okay, maybe not bishop f3, but let's say e4, takes, 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 and takes. And sooner or later, black will have to push the pawn, either here or here. If he's going to push e5, this is going to open this bishop. If he's going to push c5, this is going to open this bishop. And it's that simple. Let's check some games, so you'll see what I'm talking about. Perhaps more closely. I had this game myself several years ago. I was playing against, back then, a young talent from Australia, Smirnov. Now he is, I think, 2600 level player and one of the strongest players in Australia. I think he is the strongest player. Right now aged 20, maybe 19, I don't know really. So we played out the same opening. So bishop f5, e6, knight h4. Yeah, and he went for bishop e4. Yeah, I think actually bishop e4 is slightly more tricky, more ambitious, because it forces for white to go f3. And knight e4 is not really that great, because I'm not sure actually, was it there d takes on e4 or knight e4? Yeah, maybe it was even d takes on e4. But even black could even take this. And out of knight f3, bishop b4 check, force so many trades on d2 takes, probably something like queen a5, double capture on d2, probably it's way too little for white to be happy. Yeah, but I think it was d takes on e4. To be honest, I don't remember, because nobody really takes it on e4. So yeah, the right continuation is f3, bishop g6, queen b3, targeting this pawn on b7. Yeah, some interesting maneuvering here and there. I could take on g6 right away, but then again black is gonna have a counterplay on the h-file. So this is why there's such a smart waiting move as g3. Captures. Yeah, c takes is not advisable, because white is gonna take on d5 and the spin is gonna feel for black. So this is why c takes, e takes, bishop e2 here, castle. And now again, let's stop here for a moment. Yeah, thank Bytewitch. Yeah, hi Chekhov. Yeah, wait a second. Yeah, I missed some of your comments there. It's okay, I mean, I just started 20 minutes ago. Yeah, 20 minutes ago I started, so you didn't miss much. I'm doing the next bootcamp and the 2 bishop advantage. And try to show why it's such a great stuff. Yeah, and here, for example, why I said, let's stop here for a moment. Now imagine yourself. You're playing with black. So let's switch the board. Computer will say you nothing, because computers don't understand these positions. Imagine yourself, you're playing with black. And I'm asking you, now find me please a game plan. Because this is what, how people are playing chess at a competitive level. Because it's not enough just finding a good move. I mean, I can easily suggest rook e8, rook a to c8. I can play bishop d6, I can play king h8, I can play knight 8, whatever. But the point is, where is your plan? And plan is one of the most important things how chess professionals approach the game. And again, all of the plans will be linked with a pawn push. So let's think here for black. What can black push here? To be honest, I see nothing. I think it's just the move c6, c5. So okay, I mean, we could try to do this. I can definitely prepare it. Let's say white is trying to do something. Yeah, a4 was in the game. I mean, I was playing with white. And let's say black tries to push c5. Rook c8, I'm gonna capture at some point on g6, rearrange the pieces. And if I'm gonna push c5, captures here, and I don't know, maybe something like king g to rearrange pieces. And this is a weakness. The knight on b6 is misplaced. There is a move a5. The pawn on d5 is a very easy target. Of course, you might say that black could prepare this. He could prepare c5, but again, what's the reason of pushing the c5? So imagine yourself, you're pushing c5. There always should be a reason. Why are you doing this? Why are you pushing c5? I mean, are you just pushing the pawn because it can be pushed? Or you are willing to create some weaknesses in white's camp? I mean, I play c5 and I have to be sure what I'm doing here. Do I want to push c4? Do I want to take on d4? Do I want to open the c file? I mean, what do I want to do here? To be honest, it's not clear for me. What do I want here? Again, I might not play c5. But what should I do here? So it's really this issue and this question about what is my game plan, it typically arises in the positions when the lesser side, I mean not the lesser side, but when the weaker side, typically it's the black player, he has this disadvantage that his opponent has 2 bishop advantage. So what happened in the game? I'm gonna show you a couple of moves. Yeah, of course, c5 didn't happen. a4, black was maneuvering. I slowly improve the position, and for me, the plan is simple. I want to play e4. I want to increase the power of the two bishops. It's very easy. So I just want to play e4, e5, maybe f4, organize a pawn majority advantage at the king side, and just proceed with the attack. So of course black was trying to stop me. King g2. I can improve the position forever. Okay, I'm not so sure about this move g4 on king h1, but the idea was to reroute the bishop to g3, bishop to b1, and again, black is powerless. He has to do something. I mean, what? f5, g5, he has no plan. And it's very clear that white is gonna play e4, next move. So b6, black is dreaming about playing c5. Wait a second, I'll hydrate. e4. And the point is, if I take here, now this is a very big weakness on f7. How do you defend it? There's even bishop a2 incoming. Look at this powerful bishop. You might remember it wasn't really looking that great couple of moves ago, was it? So around here, right? It's just nothing special about this bishop, but that is the secret power of the bishops. It can increase its power because the position is gonna open, and it's gonna open inevitably. So slowly preparing the pawn push in the center, grabbing the center, improving the dark square bishop to g3, and look at this power of the bishop. It was standing on d2 a couple of moves ago. Bishop on b1, freeing this rook. Now we push e4, knight e6, bishop a2, very serious pressure. And black decided that the best he can do is to sacrifice a pawn on d5, because this position looks really miserable, with various ideas to capture something on f7, perhaps rook f1 check, grab on e6. Super dangerous. And the knight on h4 is completely out of the game. So what happened in the game? I won a pawn, I kept my two bishops on the board, and I managed to win the game. So we are not gonna proceed the rest of the game, but I think this already illustrates how very good players, where they start to make mistakes, because they don't have a clear plan, and the lack of a clear plan quite often starts with the lack of two bishops. Okay, let's see some other examples. Okay, I could show you this one. Yeah, I played the same idea, the same line again. I played it a number of times, like I said before. I was playing with white against Roberto Junio Brito Molina. Yeah, in an open tournament in Capella La Grande in France several years ago. So again, knight h4. And this time he played bishop g6. I mean, again, I can take it on g6 right away. But this gives black at least some kind of a pressure on the h file. It's not really that significant, but I mean, I can take it later. Again, typical queen b3. Here. Grab. Here. h3, so that the pawn is not under attack. Bishop d2. Here. Here. And here. So again, black was sort of concerned about this possible trade. And if he would play knight b6, probably I'm quite happy to capture here, here, and I can still employ the same idea. Very slowly, very carefully. Let's say here I could actually play something like, I don't know, maybe g3. No, okay, g3, bishop g2, I need to watch out for knight c4. So I'll need to be actually quite accurate here. Maybe something like queen c2, bishop b2, and threaten with the e4. Yeah, it's not really that clear. Yeah, so I need to be very, very accurate here. But what happened in the game is that after rook c1, black played queen b6, g3, g4. Yeah, g3 might have been slightly inaccurate move, but in the end, what happened? is that I sacrifice this pawn, gain the strong center. Okay, I mean, this is of course not forced stuff, but in the end, this is the position. So this is the dream position of the line. So white has got two bishops, black has a bishop and the knight is not doing much there, and white has a simple but strong pawn center. And this means white is simply better. And again, we are avoiding any bishop trades. I think that's one of the rules when you are enjoying a two bishop advantage. You don't want to trade one pair of bishops for no good reason, and this is the no good reason, because black is willing to trade it on b4 and even open the a file. I mean, why would you want to do this? You want to keep the bishops on the board, and again, you can calculate every single piece trade. How many pieces does control my piece and how many pieces does control his piece? So bishop on b4 and the bishop on f4, probably they're about equal. Yeah, probably. Yeah, actually, I think I should make another topic about this, the piece trade. How do you make these decisions to which piece to trade, which don't trade? Yeah, and the game proceeded like this, and I got a big advantage and essentially again won the game. Let me check perhaps some classics. There was a very nice game played a long time ago. Thank you again for the hydrate. A long time ago, played by, you won't guess by who. It was played by nobody else but, wait a second, I'll find the game actually, Wilhelm Steinitz. Can you believe this? I'm gonna show you the game. And he played this game back in 1883. So can you imagine, this was what, 1.5 centuries ago. He already had an excellent understanding of the power of the two bishops. So let's see the game. So Steinitz was playing with black, the first world champion, first official world champion. I actually have to give for him quite a lot of credit for finding this quite a modern move, knight e7. It's quite unbelievable because this is 19th century and Steinitz played knight e7. It comes with an idea to push d5, and this bishop on b5 is not doing much. Okay, queen d2 was a misplayed move. You cannot really blame white as... Okay, I mean, back then people didn't play really that good. Perhaps just a handful of people in the world. And he decided, okay, I mean, I need to give up the bishop. So here he had quite a tough choice, either to give up the bishop of the light squares or the dark squares, because the dark square bishop cannot go because the knight is going to be under attack. So he took it here, here, and he played knight b3 takes. So this is a classic position, and black has simply two bishop advantage. So you might ask, I mean, wait a second, there's this pawn on b2 under attack. Why can't I snatch it? I mean, you can, of course, you can, right? Bishop takes on b2 is a very reasonable move, but again, white is going to play rook b1. The bishop is going to retreat, rook b7, and suddenly the outcome of the position is you have activated your opponent's rook for no reason. Why should you take it on b2? So this is why Steinitz continues to activate his pieces, put the rooks in the open files. c3, rook e8, the rook centralization is done, and knight b3. And here is quite an important stuff. Now, we remember one of the principles that in order to slowly improve our position, we need to take control of many squares. And I think it's a great idea to identify the weakest piece in your opponent's position and try to pressure it with all you have got, or try to limit its potential activity. Here I think it's becoming quite obvious that the knight on b3 is misplaced. It's doing not much. So we want to limit it by positioning our pawns in the color of our opponent's bishop. b6, taking away many squares. Also for the bishop. h3, bishop e6. So again, here might be a question. What should you do, let's say, after bishop d? Okay, I think bishop d4 technically loses a pawn, but I think it would be a quite interesting idea to decline the trade to play bishop h6, still insist to play c5, and if white really wants to trade the bishops, it's gonna cost him at least a weakness, but most likely even a pawn. So we want to keep our two bishops on the board and use their power. Yeah, so in the game proceeded like this. c5, we took away yet another pawn on d4. This knight on b3 is feeling very lonely. Bishop g5, and here's a very important moment. Can you imagine yourself? What did Steinitz play here? This is very important stuff. This means you are thinking ahead. You're not thinking just about a particular position. Yeah, Captain Fly High. Yeah, of course, it's a classic. I mean, probably you've seen it before. Steinitz, yes. Or how do you pronounce it in English? English. Steinitz, maybe. Steinitz. Steinitz is the German pronunciation, because he was from Germany, and I think Steinitz just sounds better than Steinitz. Just like my last name sounds better, Neiksans, not Neiksans, because it's closer to the original language. So, do you think you can find the move which Steinitz made here? But I already know the move. You think you'll let other people choose? So if you are thinking about the move f6, you're right. And this seemingly is a paradoxical move, but don't be fooled. You might think, wait a second, what is this? I'm closing the bishop on g7, right? But think ahead. This bishop is gonna come out sooner or later. You're temporarily limiting your bishop's activity by taking even more control of the surrounding squares, and also keeping at least one pair of rooks on the board. The alternative here, what it was, I mean, since white just played bishop g5, you could have played rook d1, h6, rook d8 most likely, captures, and again the question is it enough? Is it enough? Yeah. Will you be enjoying really such a great advantage with just two bishops, since you cannot really, you might need more pieces on the board. So for me, one of the favorite strategies when it comes to the endgames, let's say there are a couple of pieces, I typically try to keep at least one pair of rooks on the board. Because, I mean, if I'm the dominating side, I can always trade the rook. Yeah, thank you. All right. Thank you for the host. Happy stream. Happy face, apologize. Happy face 79. And I think for that reason, Steinitz actually played f6 to keep at least one pair of rooks on the board. King f7, the king comes closer to the action. And you cannot really say the same for the white king, because it cannot land on the e-file. f3, g5, yet another paradoxical move, right? I mean, white is positioning the pawns on his own bishop's color, but this bishop on g7 is gonna come to life. You're gonna see. Captures, h6, and clearly intending to play f5. I mean, if it really was a big issue, you could always play bishop f8, bishop d6, and bishop e5. Here, f4. Yeah, okay, it was already a tough decision for white what to do here. Bishop f6. And white is slowly creating weaknesses in black's camp and expanding the power of the bishops. So this is already threatening with a3, and the pawn on c3 is going to be under attack. And now we have a route of penetration in white's camp for our king. So I think around at this point, Steinitz already was happy to trade at least one pair of bishops and the rook. And he transformed the endgame, playing essentially against this bad knight on c1. And he won the game in a great fashion. Actually, this was quite a fantastic move. Rook takes on e1, while white has the protected passed pawn. I mean, not the protected, but the passed pawn, outside passed pawn. Here, black actually wins, not white, because of this terrible knight on c1. Captures, captures, and king e4. Very, very accurate calculation. And Steinitz won. What is interesting about this game is because essentially I don't remember if I had seen this position. Probably I had, because I repeated exactly the same in one of my World Youth Chess Championship games. What was it? Almost 20 years ago, was it? No, it's actually, yeah, exactly 20 years ago. I'll show you. You might recognize the pattern. Yeah, my throat is a little sore, so I have to drink a lot of fluids. Yeah, so I was a big fan of the Petrov back then. I won't comment about how accurate did I play it out. I was playing against Sabukhi Gurbanov. I mean, I don't remember from which country was he. Maybe Kazakhstan or Azerbaijan or maybe Uzbekistan. I just don't remember. One of those countries. Anyway, what we reached is the same position. Pretty much the same, right? In the game, Steinitz had perhaps, I think not perhaps, he was playing against the dark square bishop and the knight. And here we are enjoying the power of the two bishops. But this time white has the light square bishop. And again, the plan is the same. So we want to limit first our opponent's pieces, the light pieces, especially the knight. We would want to play moves like c6, limit the knight, f5, limit the knight and the bishop, g6, and position the bishop on the long diagonal. The second thing what we want to do is, again, we want to keep at least one pair of rooks on the board, because, again, if we are the dominating side, if we are the side which is pushing, we can always force the trade. Don't make the trades which you are not sure about. It's not like tossing a coin, because you cannot really take it back. Yeah, so what the game, how it proceeded like this. So the rook on b4 wasn't doing much anyway. Slowly improving the pieces. And again, you might recognize the same pattern as seen in Steinitz' game. He played g6, f5, and he had the knight in that position, which was mirrored to the queen side, the knight on b3, and then the strongest side proceeded with a5, a4. Here we might think about positioning the bishop on d6 and push. Let's say the bishop could go here and push h5, h4, h3 and try to capture this pawn on f3. Yeah, okay, a4, again, insisting at some point to play bishop b5, although here technically it's not available. Yeah, of course, I mean, c4 was not a mandatory move, but what I've learned from quite a lot of practice, playing many practical games, is especially the most unexperienced players, they just cannot sit and wait. And this comes with an experience. especially when, yeah, like I said, when you're playing against less experienced opponent, and you don't see really clear points of penetration. How are you going to outplay your opponent? I think it's always a very great idea. Just let your opponent make the mistake. Just let him do something. Let him advance. Let him move forward. Because with every single decision, every pawn push, he is making very committal decisions. And quite often, he is weakening his position. Here c4 wasn't necessary, but white intends to play bishop c2 and force the rook trade. I mean, it's not even forced, right? Because I can retreat. So let's go forward. Bishop e5. Here's the trade, and exactly, rook e8. I mean, we don't have to trade. If I want, I'll trade later. Again, we don't want to trade on d4. So white has quite a good defense. He tries to position the pawns at my bishop's color and seek an active counterplan, fixing a weakness, taking control of some squares, and rerouting the bishop to c5. Yeah, around here, I believe I already had decided that probably I need to trade the rooks, because I just don't see any reasonable way to improve my position. So this is why I proceeded with the plan to bring the king to b4. And king c5 with the timely played b5 should decide the game. And again, look at the power of the bishops. The knight is clearly misplaced on h1, while the bishops, especially the bishop on d4, are dominating the game. Right. By the way, I just remembered there was a very wonderful game. I completely forgot about it, but I could show it to you. It was played by Dingler against Magnus Carlsen. Pretty sure you would love to see it, and it was a really wonderful example from modern chess how Carlsen used the two bishop advantage. Let me just try to find it. Wait a second, I'll need to find it. I think I found it. Yeah, I think I found it. So this game was played last year. Haha. Yeah, thank you for the redeemed opposite custom. That should be available only for Blitz. That's too bad. Can I somehow? I think I'll try to find a way to give this point back to you, because I cannot really castle no opposite. Yeah, then if I won't find a way to redeem the points back to you, I'll keep this in my mind, that you redeem 1,500 points for castle the opposite side. Yeah, that's for me playing Blitz. That's not today, really. Okay. Anyway. So Dingler was playing against Magnus Carlsen last year's Croatia Grand Chess Tour tournament. So world's #1 against world's #2. So Carlsen here played quite a modern continuation, and somewhere here he surprised his opponent. I think bishop a6 was a novelty, doesn't matter. We are not gonna touch it or analyze it very deeply. So Dingler found all of the best moves. Up to some point, it was quite a sharp game. Very unbalanced. But at some point, the game had fizzled to a probable draw. Takes, rook e1, bishop c5, captures here. And I think around here. Yeah, thank you. Check up. Around here, I think Dingler I think so, at least he had thought about this, because I would be thinking about this. He had thought that things are going wrong. And sometimes when you have this feeling, when you're playing your best chess, or just playing a good game, whatever, your opponent is showing very, very good understanding and making great decisions, you might come to these thoughts that maybe I just need to make a draw here. It's completely normal, because especially, I mean, Dingleren is playing with white against the world champion. And he, of course, he's going for the win, and he sees, I mean, he's actually risking here, slightly risking, because his opponent has the 2-bishop advantage. So I think probably that thought was in his mind, that maybe you just, let's call it quits, and try to make a draw. And my experiment failed, but I mean, draw is good. Draw is okay. So what he did, I think so at least, maybe I'm wrong, with that mindset, he played Queen b7, and Queen b7 is a mistake. He had to play Queen c6. Queen c6 takes. I don't know what he actually missed here. Bishop h5 and rook c1. And he captures the pawn on b4, but black is very active because of his strong bishops. Something like, I think it was bishop f8, captures, and rook e2. And this pawn on b2 is looking probably, I mean, it's gonna fall. So what happened here? He played Queen b7, captures, here, and bishop f8. So this knight is imprisoned. It cannot return home. I mean, how do you want to return it home? Because knight a5, knight c4 is impossible, at least right away. So he played bishop c6. Immediately, knight a5, I think there was a little tactical problem of bishop b5. Captures. And still, the knight has not retreated. And something like after b3, bishop f7, white is sort of suffering. But something similar happened in the game. So let's just be witnesses what happened in the game. So bishop f8, here. The bishop probably has to retreat from e2. Capture. Now, black has the 2-bishop advantage. So black is not risking anything. So if black wants to make a draw, he can just play bishop a6, capture on b7, and just be done with it. And draw with black probably is fine. But we all know world champion's ambition. And he slowly improves his position and takes control of even more squares. Here, f5, intending to play bishop f6, improving the position. And that's the problem. Because imagine yourself, you are having a great night. How do you even improve it? Can you make it even better? I mean, everybody knows the knights are typically the best in outpost, right? But how often do you have an outpost where to position a knight, right? And they don't have this amazing opportunity to increase the power. You can do this with a bishop. You can always increase the power of the bishop by positioning it on the longer diagonal, and preferably in the center. So f5. Yeah, bishop g8. I mean, this was unbelievable move. I think it was Anish Giri, I think so, who praised bishop g8. I think it's that it was such a super wonderful, fantastic move. At least I think I read, if I remember correctly, in some comments. Was it Twitter maybe? I don't remember. But the point is, black just retreats from a tempo attack on knight a5, and any knight a5 can be met with bishop d8. So this position is not really requiring to be specific with tempos. You don't have to play forced chess. You can always shuffle the pieces here and there. So black can afford to play such a quiet waiting move as bishop g8. King d3 and g4. Yeah, so g4, black is fixing a weakness on h2. It's very difficult to suggest what white had to do here to stop this, because he has a problem here. The knight is not returning, into game. So Dingler played a completely normal looking move. He played king d3 with an idea to play knight a5, knight c4, bring the knight back to defenses, and somehow white would love to trade bishop for the bishop, knight for the bishop. I mean, at least one trade is going to be a draw. But how? How do you trade this? How do you force this trade? So g4 fixing a weakness on h2. Knight a5. Here. Threatening with bishop g1. So the knight got out. But you might actually realize the knight on c4 is gonna be feeling as helpless as it was feeling on b7. Attack. Here. Here. Captures. Captures. Here was actually quite a tricky moment. Dingler played king e2. I think he had a very interesting chance to go for the activity and play king e4. With an idea that bishop h2, king f4. And now this is really a devilish trap, really. Because h5 is met by king g5. Capture, seemingly, I mean, black is just winning. But as it happens, this is a theoretical draw. These pawns, they're not marching anywhere. King h6 might be played, but these pawns, they're not marching forward by... the only moment when they can be marched is by positioning them on the black squares, and this is when they're going to be blocked. So this is a draw. So I think that was quite a nice possibility for Dingler. But anyway, king f4 can be met by bishop g1. And after knight g4, bishop d4, probably black is still winning this position. So what happened in the game? Let's have a look at the remaining moves. King e2, h5. This weakness isn't going anywhere. And we are getting a classic position of two weaknesses, according to... Who said it first? Do you know? Who said it first about the two weaknesses? When you have one weakness in your opponent's position, you need another. Do you remember? Somebody from the classics. He even wrote the book, My System. Probably you've heard it. So Aaron Nimzovich. Okay. Nah, not Kasparov. I mean, Kasparov is one of the best players, obviously, of all times, but he didn't say it. It was Aaron Nimzovich more than 100 years ago. He said it first. When your opponent has one weakness, you need to create another. And white has a weakness on h2, and we already have a second weakness on b2. And the defender's side, it's going to be very, very difficult to defend both weaknesses. So, yeah, Dingler here played bishop d5, bishop d7, doesn't matter really. Bishop b3. Yeah, but what else to play here? Knight f1 is protecting this pawn. But the king is going to march forward to this pawn or to this pawn. So the king cannot guard everything. The knight is very passively defending this super big weakness on h2. So in the game, what happened? Of course, we are declining the trade. Yeah, look at this actually. We could take it here. Takes and play bishop h2. But Magnus Carlsen knows this pawn on h2 is going anywhere. So we don't need to trade the bishop. We need our light square bishop. And the bishops work best in pairs. So yeah, now he transformed this position with bishop h2, h4, and bishop e5. This wasn't really necessary, but I think Carlsen just calculated this position probably is just winning. Here. And again, this knight on c4 is feeling very, very helpless. Look at this position. We are going to position the bishop here. The king is going to march, I don't know, maybe here. We can grab the pawn if we need it. If we don't, then just let's try to promote this. Yeah, of course, not knight g2 or bishop g2. Just try to promote this pawn. And there is no way how white can try to trade one piece Yeah, bishop e4. Look at this. I mean, let's try to understand how many pieces do these bishops control. Here, 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 here. Let me draw a couple of more arrows. And this feels actually like a minefield. So how should white avoid it? Seems quite an impossible task. Yeah, and the king simply walks. It simply walks to d4. The pawn on h5 is irrelevant. It's not even moving forward. The king goes to c3. Or perhaps it can try to push the g-pawn forward. Yeah, so black simply collects the pawn on b3. Or on a6, so Dingleren decided to call it quits and resign. Where did he make a mistake? To be honest, I mean, I don't know. If you go back to this endgame, I don't believe it's lost. But I was analyzing this game and I couldn't really come up with a very clear plan how to defend. Because typically, at least according to Dvoretsky's endgame manual, he postulated the typical ideas, what should the stronger side do and what should do the weaker side do. So typically, the stronger side, it doesn't apply always. The stronger side should try to, but that was with the material advantage. Yeah, the stronger side should try to trade pieces and the weaker side should try to trade pawns. So in terms of that, f5, g4, Dingleren should be happy. He just managed to trade one pawn off the board. At the queen side, nothing is going to trade. I mean, maybe here, instead of this, instead of king d3, he could have tried to play something like h3, right? To stop this g4 pawn from happening. So if he had seen that the black bishop is going to land on g1, he would have thought about this one. But okay, now the pawn on g3 is weak. So I could play h5, for example, and try to pressure this pawn on g3. Let's say as soon as the knight is going to leave, let's say, to some knight a5, I'm going to play bishop g3, bishop d6, king goes here, and again bishop c7, imprisoning the knight, and again the king goes to b2. So it's very difficult, and I've seen this numerous times in practice, and I think it's always like this. Everybody, when it comes to choosing the best move, let's say you have A, B, C, D, E continuation, let's say 5 moves, and you have to choose the best. Everybody is a big expert. But it's so difficult and psychologically uncomforting to choose between worse, very bad looking, dangerous, ugly, and just bad move. And you have to choose between them. And none of them is giving you clear prospects to make a draw. How do you remain objective? So it's really, really difficult to defend such positions. Although, I mean, if you would ask the computer would say, I mean, it's just a draw. Probably just a draw, slightly worse, but just a draw. For human being, it's not that obvious. And also it wasn't really that obvious for Dingleren, who was completely outplayed here in this endgame by Magnus Carlsen. All right, let's check. I think I had a couple of more openings from where arises the two bishop advantage. Let me try to find it. Where did it go? Here it is. Yeah. There's a very popular opening, which is called the Nimzo Indian. Have you played it before yourself? Probably you have. At least you have met it, right? So what's the Nimzo Indian? Super popular line. So d4, knight f6, c4, e6. This is a super popular continuation for black. Black typically either continues with d5 or b6. Knight c3 is by standard met by bishop b4. And knight c3, bishop b4 is the so-called Nimzo. Hi, Omer Ali. Which book do you suggest for beginners? I mean, that's a very big question. Yeah, if you could post some details, maybe I can direct you in some way. So here, knight c3, bishop b4. Let's say queen c2, castle, a3, takes. It's a classic. And white is giving up quite a popular opening. Seemingly it's harmless for black, because today a chess professional, he knows what to do here. But let's imagine you're playing with black and you don't really know. You don't really know what is the most aggressive, most annoying continuation here. And let's say you do something normal. Let's say black is playing d6. And I could play... Okay, I just want to set up the position which I want, so I won't think about the nuances. Let's say I'm going to play f3. Knight d7, e4, b6. Seemingly all normal looking moves. Bishop e3, here. Knight e2. And I think black is already in trouble. Very easy. So what happened? I mean, we just made completely normal looking moves, because white is enjoying the two bishop advantage. At the moment, the bishop on f1 is not doing much, but we have a strong center, and it's supported by the dark square bishop, which black doesn't have. And typically, as soon as the position is gonna open, so should increase the power of the bishop. I mean, of course, it's not really that simple. It's combined together with the advantage of the space, but that's at least the idea. So here, white's idea, why he is playing queen c2, here play a3, here, he insists, not insists, but invites to lead the game into a positional struggle where he's gonna try to exploit his dark square bishop, and he is willing to get behind in development. So for example, again, let's try to do something. Okay, d6. Okay, I'm gonna try to play it more modestly. e3. Okay, maybe f3 was way too much. Here, all of this is again completely normal. Short castle. I don't know, knight e4 is a normal looking move. f5 is the standard normal looking move. Here, here, here. And white might just play something here at the queen side, prepare either c5 or the classical idea d5, bishop d4. And very slowly, this knight is gonna be kicked out. Let's say rook e8, and if I'm gonna be able to do this, knight e1. Let's say here, 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 here. And white is preparing a slow improvement of the controlling the squares. And it's again not clear what black should do here. I have a very, very similar game which applies to this pattern. Any book, if you want any book, study Kasparov's great predecessors. How does it spell it? Kasparov wrote a great book series about previous world champions. Study this. Let me try to find this game which I was mentioning. For example, where was it? Okay, here it is. Here it is. I don't think it wasn't from the Nimzo, but the idea is going to be the same. I played this game myself with black against Ernesto Inarkiev. And we played it a long time ago, back in 2002. Yeah, he was a youngster, I was a youngster. He was slightly younger than me. He was the bright talent, I was the international master. And yeah, so we played it out. I was playing Dutch defense back then without any deep theory. And look at this. Yeah, a3, bishop d2, and queen d2. This is a classical approach. You might see many openings like this after bishop b4, or for example, we might just do it from a different order of view. After e4, c5, knight f3, d6, early check. Black would try to defend with the bishop, but he plays knight e7, so that he plays a6 afterward. captures, and he wins the bishop. And then he aims for the 2 bishop advantage. Here's the same. The reason why here black is playing e6 and bishop b4, because in black's idea, he has this bishop on e7 is not doing much. Let's say the alternative is like this. Bishop e7, castle, castle. That's the classical Dutch. But I want to position the bishop on b6, bishop b7, d6, knight e4, and this bishop on e7 is not doing much. So that's why there's this idea to play bishop b4, and maybe white is going to be kind. He is going to trade the bishops, and then just black plays the traditional idea: d6, queen e7. Yeah, I'm not so sure. Was it either e5 right away or maybe knight c6 and prepare e5? So that's the classical idea. So here white already is eyeing for the advantage of the 2 bishops, a3 here, and queen e2. Yeah, that's an amazing move. This is already signaling that white is thinking ahead where he is going to position his pieces, and that the dark square bishop is going to land on the long diagonal. So the only question is, should it be b4 or bishop b2? So don't be afraid to make short-term weaknesses or weird moves if you are thinking long-term. So white is thinking here long-term. So the short-term thinking would be bishop takes on d2, just because this is a normal-looking move. But if we are thinking in terms of a game plan, you might realize the bishop belongs on b2, not on d2. Yeah, so the game progressed like this. Now look at this. I mean, Inarkiev is very smart not to define, is he gonna play b3 or b4? I mean, he starts with the short castle. Here, here, b3, very accurate, keeping tabs on the pawn on c4. Here, yeah, okay, I mean e4, I don't know, maybe that wasn't really accurate. And white slowly starts to open the position. And after a missed move, rook f2, captures, captures, white is starting to increase the pressure. And look how Inarkiev is doing this. He is probably happy by trading 1 pair of rooks again. He is not going to move the pawns at the king side, because these pawns on f3, g3, they protect any possible incomes from incoming hostilities. And white is planning to advance at the queen side to create more targets. If he would ask in this position, which is a clear weakness in black's position, I don't think it's really so clear at the moment. So white just starts to improve the position. Bishop c3 is a wonderful move, stopping any knight a5 ideas, preparing to play b4 at the right time. Here, here. Slowly improving the position. Bishop f1. Again, you might remember that example by Steinitz, right? When he voluntarily played f6 in his game back in the 19th century. This is the same. So the pawn on f3, it's really a good pawn. It controls the e4 and the g4 pawn, and you can always push it forward. So bishop f1, positioning the bishop on d3 most likely. 1 rook goes away. Yeah, here of course, it's very easy to criticize black. I mean, I was playing black, so can you suggest what to do here for black? Imagine yourself, you're in black shoes. What should you do here? Now, if I was playing this game today, yeah, okay, a6, a4. Yeah, but the question is, should you do this? I mean, should you do this? a6, a4. In whose favor is this? Playing a6, a4. Again, it's not clear. And what I've learned from playing many games is that you have to refrain making more weaknesses, making very committal decisions when you are defending side and you realize that your actually desire to look for an active game is bringing more trouble than gain. And I know this is a very, very tricky and sensitive topic, because all of us, most of us who have sought some chess training, we believe that you have to seek an active game plan. You have to do something, but sometimes you don't have to do anything. Just sit and wait. Yeah, so there's gonna be one example about that. So here, I just wanted to do something. I was playing with black, a5, taking more space. Rook e8, yeah, d5, more space. This bishop is already looking great. The knights have no good squares. Here, yeah, bishop d4, f4. Again, f4 is gonna be a weakness later, but I want to do something. I just cannot sit and watch how my opponent is slowly torturing me. But actually the pawn on f4 is gonna be one of the reasons why black lost the game. Captures, captures. Now that's a weakness. So thank you for the weakness. We gain nothing with black. We just create one weakness on f4, and since there is already one weakness on f4, what all that white needs is to create another weakness at the queen side. That's it. And the game proceeded like this. White slowly started to again one of those moments, right? One of those moments. I just cannot sit and wait. I have to do something. Yeah, so again, c6 really helps white to open the position, and slowly but slowly the position is opening. White just keeps tabs that he keeps the bishops on the board, and there you go. That's the second weakness. Thanks to black and his activities. And the game started very long maneuvering. Again, avoiding the bishop trade. And in the end, my opponent somehow tricked me. Yeah, these bishops are very powerful. Very, very powerful. Somehow he traded one pair of knights, targeting another weakness. Then this weakness on h4. Yeah, and finally he captures the pawn on h4 and simply converted this position to a win. So how should I have defended it better? Probably around here. Around here, I think I should have been more careful. Let's go back. And not make any committal decisions. But look at these bishops. Look at these bishops here. On b2 and g2. It's seemingly not much, right? So imagine yourself, for example, you're seeing this line. You're playing with white. And your opponent has just played queen e3 check. So you think, okay, I could just take it here, takes here. And it's quite paradoxical. You might think, I should be happy for this trade. Black takes on g2, king g2. I just trade this terrible bishop on g2. It's doing not much. And this knight on e3 is feeling all so powerful. But it's not really like that, because this knight on e3 is not gonna stay there. It's gonna be forced to go away. The bishop on g2 can increase the power. And while after rook f2, the bishop on g2 is not doing much, we fast forward the game, slowly but slowly improving the position. Still the light square bishop is not doing much, but the position is opening. It is opening. And now, a lot of maneuvering. We are not trading. And now this is one of the strongest pieces. Yeah, look at those bishops. And they started as probably not really great pieces. They ended up as really, really great pieces. All right. Let me see. Actually, I think I had another example about how a bad bishop becomes a good one, but I would like to show you how to hold, how to do nothing. I played this game. Yeah, but okay, there's a little backstory that I was playing for a team. It was a team event. I was playing on the leaders board, and I don't remember how many players there were on the team. Maybe 6 boards. Yeah. So when you're playing in a team, there's a team strategy. Black has to make a draw, white has to win. It's that simple. Doesn't always work because opponents also think about the same. But if you're playing black, you're happy. You're happy with the draw. When you're playing in competitive leagues or team championships. So I'm playing black. And I was playing against Alexander Donchenko, one of the strongest German young grandmasters. Now I don't know what his rating, maybe 2630, 40, something like that. I think he has increased some rating. Back then he was, let me check. It doesn't matter. He was 2560. Just a young talent, very strong GM already. So what we played? We played the Catalan. Bishop b4. I won't explain the reasoning. Why bishop b4 was really that important move, to lure the bishop to d2 and then retreat to e7. But it comes down to this. So knight bd7, bishop f4, here, knight h5, and knight f6. So this is already sort of an invitation for a draw. So bishop f4, knight h5, bishop d2, knight f6. For black, it's not really that easy to force sharp and interesting games. So this is just super solid line to hold a draw. So what happened here? He took on d5. He played knight c6, takes, and we have a classic. So white reached the so-called minimal advantage from the opening. He has the 2 bishops, but black's position still remains very solid. So what I don't want to do, I don't want to help my opponent by creating any targets, additional targets. So I'm not going to push e5, I'm not going to push h5, g5, whatever. So I'm just going to try to trade every single piece at the c file, all of the heavy pieces, and just sit like this and make no weaknesses. So it starts with queen b8. I'm sorry, queen c8, yeah. Queen c8, queen b7, rearranging the pieces. Rook c4, of course, is impossible because there's a capture and there's a pin. Yeah, a6, again, very careful about making any committal pawn movements. Because the general rule is this: if the pawn marches forward, it's not going back. So you need to be very careful about what do you do about your pawns. So a6 is to take control of the b5 square. And white already was thinking about bishop f1, bishop a6 to gain control of the c file. Something like bishop f1, bishop a6, knight b5, rook c1, rook c7, and penetrate in the black's camp. So a6 is mandatory. Here, a lot of maneuvering. And yeah, here I think actually my opponent was wrong. He played rook c1. I think I already explained in a couple of examples before, is I would try to refrain from making such trades which you don't have to. I would probably think about some ideas to position this bishop on d3 so that he doesn't have to worry about penetration of the c file while targeting this pawn. Maybe something like f3, knight f4, bishop goes here, g4, h4, and try to create or provoke some weaknesses from black at the king side. So rook c1 was played. I don't think that was an accurate move. Captures. And again, we remember that white has the 2 bishop advantage, so he is going to be trying to force some weaknesses in our position. So we don't want to give him any targets. We don't want to push e5. Playing very carefully. g6 is just a good move. Yeah, okay, here I think this is already quite important. So white is playing not with a rush. Bishop f8. I have nothing better. I have nothing better. So I'm not ashamed to repeat the position. Bishop f8 and bishop e7, that's like sending a signal to my opponent. What are you gonna do here? So what is your plan? Because I'm not gonna make any weaknesses for you. So how are you gonna proceed and try to beat me? Queen d1, yeah, king g8, doesn't really matter. Okay, here white manages to push a pawn forward, force me to push the pawn forward. Knight b8, here, and finally a5. Why a5? Why not b5? I'm sorry. Why not b5? Why a5? Because if he push b5 and white is gonna retreat and play a4, this is gonna be a really, really big weakness. So when we are thinking about the structure of the position, the pawn on b6 is gonna be easier to defend than the pawn on a6. The pawn on a6 requires for you to have the knight on b8 and probably another knight on c7. With the pawn on remaining on b6 and another on a5, I can easily defend this pawn. Knight e7, bishop d8, queen c7, if necessary, another knight can join it. So there is no way white is gonna capture this pawn anytime soon. But he does win this square on b5. So again, a lot of maneuvering. White is not in a rush. We are not in a rush, waiting and waiting. A lot of maneuvering. Yeah, so white would love to get the knight to b5, but that's gonna cost him a weakness by playing f3, because knight c3, I'm gonna trade it. So we are sitting and doing nothing. Queen c1. Yeah, I think that these were the nerves. So white didn't have to, again, trade the last heavy piece, because once the heavy pieces go away, my defensive task becomes easier. Take, take, do nothing, retreat, do nothing. We are doing nothing. Improving the knight to c6. Do you see what is not changing in black's position until this moment? Do you see? Until the very, very beginning. As soon as white got his two bishop advantage, did you notice? I'll just fast forward the game, and can you notice what black didn't do? So again, it started around here, so white got his two bishops. Okay, except of the a pawn, a6. Okay, here, trade. We are standing doing nothing. We are standing doing nothing. White provoked us to play a5. We are standing doing nothing, doing nothing. Finally, there's a trade. We're doing nothing, slowly improving the pieces, bringing king to the center, doing nothing, sitting and waiting, doing nothing, and sitting and waiting and doing nothing. Did you notice? We did not move any pawns. That is very, very important, because let's imagine a different scenario. You would want to do something, because, I mean, we want to do something. We don't want to sit and watch. And we would try to push a pawn. Sooner or later, let's say, I don't know, maybe here. Yeah, f5. Yeah, f5. I'm concerned about e4. I'm going to push f5. But I'm very, very... No, white is not going to win. I'm very, very careful about pushing the pawns, because now f5, that's a weakness. That's weakening of the e5 square. For example, white could try position something like this. g4, bishop g3, rearrange the knight to d3, then to e5, maybe even combine with some h4, h5. Why should we give more targets for our opponent? We just sit and do nothing. Don't touch the pawns. So if white wants to do something, he needs to push f3, e4. But that's not so easy, because we are going to target this pawn on d4. So probably he could try to do it like this. I don't know. Maybe put the pawn on a3, king on d3, f3, and e4. Yeah, and try to somehow make it work. But if we are going to get to this, if the situation is going to be inevitable, I can always play f5 later. Yeah, don't rush with such big decisions, especially about pawns marching by two squares in endgames. And finally, I made only exception in my position by playing very carefully, very patiently, just because my opponent had allowed me to fix these pawns on the black squares. So this is the only exception where I actually played the active moves, b5 and a4. So that was not part of provocation. White absolutely did not provoke me. I just fixed my knight on c4. If this wouldn't be the case, I wouldn't touch those pawns. For example, if I would want to play active, let's say here, for example, b5. Yeah, it's a ridiculous move. So b5, I'm seemingly attacking something, but it's not even clear what I'm attacking there. I'm just making a weakness on a5 and giving up the square on c5. So by making every single decision as pawn push forward, you have to ask yourself, what is your goal? Why are you doing this? Are you not making even more weaknesses? Are your actions actually not helping your opponent? And I comfortably held the game to a draw. Actually, I think in the final position I was already slightly better, but the team was happy with the draw, and I took it. Okay. Yeah, is anybody there actually? I see some comments there. I mean, or everybody is so carefully following what I'm talking about. Maybe some questions about those two bishops, how to properly play them out. Yeah, that was interesting, but this comes with experience, and I know there's this very tiny margin between playing passively and doing nothing and playing carefully and not making any extra weaknesses. It comes with experience, so I cannot really pinpoint in which moment to do what. You just have to realize that, let's say you are the defender, right? You have this position here. Let's go back. Here. You should have absolutely no illusions here. You are not playing for the win here, because you have no targets. Your opponent is enjoying the two bishop advantage. Maybe Carlsen will disagree with me. Yeah, probably. He would find a way to play this for the win with black as well. But normally, black is playing super solid continuation, so I don't have any illusions here that I'm gonna play this position for the win. So if I realize that my opponent is pushing here, this means I don't have to create more weaknesses to help my opponent. And when my opponent is shuffling pieces here and there, for example, this is what he was doing. Knight b4, queen a4, queen d1, bishop f1, knight c1, whatever. I mean, king g1, king h2, whatever. I recognize that he is waiting for me to make mistakes. He is waiting for me to make some kind of committal decisions, which I don't have to. I might play emotionally. I might want to have wrong impression that my opponent doesn't know what to do, and he's just shuffling the pieces here and there. What essentially he is doing, if he is waiting for a mistake, use this opportunity. Yeah, so this would be quite a big topic actually. Provocation, provocation in chess. So definitely, I'll make a topic about this. How to provoke the opponent, because at the GM level and even higher, that is a very big topic. Properly provoke the opponent and not getting provoked yourself, because if you are sitting just solidly, your opponent pretty much cannot do anything. h2, h4. Yeah, I see easy chess. If he kept queens on the board, I don't know. That's a very good question. The question is at which moment? Maybe something like here, right? Very good question. I think h5 is a good move, because with h5, I'm getting control of the g4 square. I'm not allowing him to play h5, h takes, whatever. And I don't really see that as a weakening. But again, I'll tell you honestly, I will be thinking about this. Let's say even after the queen trade, let's say the queens, let's say when the queens get off the board, here, and around here, let's say he would push h4. Now I'm not so sure, because if I'm gonna push h5, he might use these pawns at some kind of later moment of the game and perhaps try to push f3, g4, let's say when the king is here, and might actually suffer because of this pawn on h5. For example, let's say we go here, here. Okay, probably is not going to be the best moves of all time. Let's say something like this. Here, here, and g4. So if I would take, this would give my opponent a passed pawn. And if I wouldn't, I would just sit and do nothing. This would create a weakness. So it's not really that simple. So I might actually think about by not doing anything. Because let's say he plays h4. With rooks it would be better. Yeah, probably. But this is, again, I told you, you don't have to rush with training the heavy pieces. Try to keep at least one pair of rooks on the board. And I think he misplayed this. Yeah. Here maybe I could do something like this. h5 and king e8. Just ignore it. Yeah, just ignore it. I mean, let him take on g6. Let him stand on h5. I might actually take on h5 at the right time. It doesn't feel like he can play h6. This pawn is going to be lost. And if he's going to take, okay, I'm going to take. I think so. So allowing him to play h5 would be careful move, but depends. It really depends how many pieces there are on the board. If he still has a rook on h1, it changes. It changes our perspective. So yeah, this is chess. You said it quite nicely that with the rooks on h1, I think for black it might be slightly dangerous to push h5. Okay. So when we go back to this position, how I would have played it with white. Yeah, let's switch it. So yeah, you're welcome. How I would have tried to play this as white. Of course, I mean the position is about equal. Like I said, I mean I would try to position the bishop on d3 somehow. Let's say I would start with maybe f3. Yeah, computer says e5, of course, but I wouldn't play e5 because e5 is a very big committal decision. I'm creating some weaknesses. So here white has already a number of ways to improve the position. Something like d takes, bishop comes here on f4. And those bishops are very strong, and this pawn on d5 is going to be a weakness. Now, I wouldn't play e5 at all. For example, I'm sitting and doing nothing. And let's say knight f4. I'm sitting doing nothing. Bishop f1. Sitting and doing nothing. Bishop d3. Okay, maybe here e5 was already a threat. So, yeah, apparently I misplayed it. I just wanted to show you this position, at least ideally. Queen e2, king g2, g4, h4, g5, rook h1, and h5. Here actually some chances for white to create something. But again, probably it's not really that simple. But with the rooks traded, I think this chance to create some weaknesses at the king side, I think it's gone. So maybe, you know, maybe I would think about a possibility to trade queens somehow. But how to do this? How do I trade queens? For example, instead of this, let's say, whatever, here, somehow I managed to trade this. Yeah, I don't want to trade rooks. Okay, let's imagine there is no rook c2. Let's imagine there is no rook c2, whatever. I'm gonna go away, and somehow I'm getting this position. And this position we can play forever. Because again, e5 is creating weaknesses. So black is doing nothing. I can improve the position. Okay, I shouldn't give up the pawn. Position the bishop on d3. I can bring the king closer to the center. I can try to create more weaknesses at the king side. Improve the knight. Put it on f4. Play h4. Play g5. Play rook h1, h5. And at the right time, I can push e4. And seemingly, this rook on c7 is not doing anything. And if I don't like the arising position, I can always trade rook c1. Yeah, but okay, I mean, this is, of course, completely different topic. Yeah, so how to properly trade pieces. And what we can learn from this is just don't trade too many. Always keep at least one pair of heavy pieces on the board, because you can always trade it, especially when you feel you are the stronger side. All right. Let me check if this was any good. Okay, maybe very shortly I'll show this game as well. Yeah, very, very nice. Yeah, that's the power of the two bishops, because your opponent cannot easily open the position. As soon as he opens the position, he creates weaknesses, and that is the bottom line of this entire today's topic. Your opponent is opening the position, making big decisions, moving the pawns forward, assuming you have the two bishop advantage. He is creating targets. And if he doesn't do this, it gives you quite a lot of freedom, slowly and slowly improve the position, assuming you can do this, of course, right? Okay, this game I was playing in Bundesliga last year against Korpa bench. I think he's a GM, maybe EM, I don't know, about 2,500. Again, I was playing the Catalan. So I went for quite a peaceful line. Somewhere around here I equalized, slightly misplayed it. Yeah, so the point here, queen c8 was a mistake, and the correct move was queen c7. Yeah, wasn't really that obvious. I think so, at least. Yeah. No, I'm sorry, not queen c7 or queen c8, but queen d8 was the correct move. Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna delve into details why that was a mistake, but I got to this position. So white is having two bishops. And my goal is very simple. Again, so I realize I'm worse. I don't have any illusion that I'm gonna play this for the win. I blundered the positional idea. I'm gonna play for the win. So I started to do a couple of things. Thing number one, I tried to trade all of the heavy pieces, because my opponent is gonna need them to create weaknesses for me. And the second thing is, I don't make any weaknesses myself. So I don't want to be active, whatever. I mean, g5, f5, e5, whatever. I just want to be super solid and build a brick wall. So white is trying to make a good use of his bishops. Yeah, b4, that's a nice move, of course, not to let the pieces out on c5. So white is enjoying a very nice space advantage. Yeah, g6, okay, g6 is a very solid move, just not to miss any f4, f5 ideas. And look at this. Yeah, so this is essentially, again, what I told you about. Don't rush with heavy pieces trades. Keep pieces on the board. Here, white played queen c2, so I'm gonna show you how the game progressed. Captures, captures. I'm doing nothing. I'm building a brick wall. So he cannot really take on d7. There's a pin, there's no use for it. Let's do a couple of trades. If white is gonna trade on a5, my pieces will jump to life. So this is quite forced. I'm just sitting and doing nothing. Okay, here specifically, yeah, that's slightly an exception. Yeah, I forgot even about this. Yeah, here specifically f5 works, because f5 he cannot take because I activate my pieces. Bishop f6, and this is simply a draw. Computer doesn't understand it. Extra pawn for white, easy draw for black. I just play h6 g5, and this is an easy draw. So white cannot even win this. I just don't even need this pawn on b4. That's a draw. And if he doesn't trade it, then yeah, it's not clear what he is doing actually. So what happened here? I think he still had to try to do this. I build a brick wall, and this is a fortress. So white cannot get through. But when we go back, how white should have played this position, at least I think so. Let's switch from the white's perspective. So the only thing probably white needs to watch out is the move a5. There's technically also the pawn on e5 and under attack. So ideally I want to reach this position. So I'll just show you some couple of moves. So f4. Yeah, so after, actually this is funny. Computer says after a5 there's queen b5. Yeah, there's no points of penetration for the black queen, and neither here. Everything is protected. And I just slowly bring the pieces to the center. Bishop, I don't know, bishop d4, maybe king on d2, and try to, okay, maybe it could be like this, takes, and let's say black does nothing. He sits and does nothing. And here white can pressure for a long time, and I think again at the right time he can force the queen trade if nothing is going to work. For example, queen c6, trade the queens, and king d4, king d3, king c4, king b5. Try to get to this pawn on b6. Yeah, but okay, we didn't see this because white immediately decided that he needs to trade the queens, and the position is nice, risk-free, but with just 2 bishops on the board, it's not enough. Okay. Yeah, there's another mention which I wanted to mention, another opening. There's many openings which have this topic, getting the minimal advantage of the 2 bishops. h5. Yeah, this is chess. I see your point. Yeah, why I play the 5? Yeah, I changed the character position. If I play h5, he can prepare at the right time to play g4 and h5. For example, something like king g2, I sit and do nothing, here, g4. I'm not sure if this is the best moment, but I'll just try to illustrate the idea. I cannot allow him to take because that's going to be a weakness. Takes, I sit and do nothing, h5, takes. He can try to penetrate here, and it's quite unpleasant. So you might come back to this decision that you're gonna need to play 5 to defend against this pull on the f7 pawn. So this is why I did it immediately. The position is slightly unpleasant. It is unpleasant. Maybe it's even more than slightly unpleasant. Hi, Billhop. Yeah, but I decided to force the matters and I played it immediately, f5, because I already see the incoming problems. But can you imagine this position? So white is preparing something at the queen side. And let's say we are reaching the final position. Don't you think white is regretting he doesn't have any heavy pieces on the board? Because let's say if he would have queens, I don't know if I can actually do this, because the pawn on g6 can be easily targeted. The queen can penetrate our position. So again, this is one more proof that don't rush with pieces to trade them, which you are not sure, especially if you are the stronger side. Don't rush. Keep some pieces on the board. There was no need for white here to trade queens. Here, queen c2, right? He could still play f4, but I think he was slightly concerned about a5. Pretty sure he missed queen b5. I think so. Otherwise, he would have kept the queens on the board. No, I'm from Latvia. It's bordering Russia. All right, and a final example I wanted to show you, another opening, is the English opening, quite a popular line. Okay. From white's perspective, white plays not e4, of course. c4, e5, here, knight f3, knight c6, e3. Super popular line. Okay, maybe not right now. Last year, absolutely 2 years before, totally was played at the top level. Everybody played it, and I think they still play it. Magnus Carlsen, Dingler Ren, Fabiano Caruana. I mean, everybody plays this line E3, not G3, E3, exactly E3. And the idea is to push some early d4s, and bishop b4 is some sort of a Nimzo idea, queen c2. I think it was bishop c3 and queen c3. And castle. Yeah, I think it was castle. No, wait a second. Castle, not. Wait, castle, I'm not so sure. That's a pawn under attack. Maybe it was queen e7. And this is quite a popular line. And again, now you see. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, that's a good point, of course. d6 is a very, very solid move. But you have to understand that white is aiming here for a 2-bishop advantage. He has it already, right? So we are aiming for a slow opening of the position. So for example, if I would play as white, maybe, I mean, my ideal position, not saying this is correct. I want to play d4. If you take, I'm going to take with the knight, take with the queen, then position this pawn, this bishop on b3 and bishop b2, and that's a very powerful bishop. If you compare this bishop on b2 with the knight on f6, I think white just got much better. If black would defend the pawn on e5, I would still open the position. Probably, I think so at least. Maybe here specifically because of knight e4, black is getting an excellent position, but I just wanted to show you that still I'm planning to play b3 and bishop b2, and should black at some point play e4, we are gonna have one killer bishop on the long diagonal. The knight on f3 is it better than on e2? Depends on the position. Yeah, there is sometimes knight on e2 is more tricky, but there's obviously some downsides for that, so I wouldn't really say. Here specifically, maybe in the knight on e2 would be would be worse, I think. Knight on f3 is targeting the pawn on e5. So that's at least the idea, right? So if black is at any time playing e4, this opens this long diagonal, which white can choose to his advantage. So I think the main line was something like this. Queen e7, d4, knight e4, I think. Here. I don't remember. It's been some time and I checked this. And wasn't it queen b4? I just try to remember. And the point is that black is forcing white to trade these pieces, and then seemingly somehow he keeps the balance. So there were even some very weird attempts for white to keep the bishop on c1, to play king e2. So you might have seen, I should have found the game. I think Dingler Ren or Magnus Carlsen was playing against Dingler Ren. I recognize these early king walks. But the idea is to keep this bishop, 2-bishop advantage in the long term to preserve the dark square bishop. The king walks, but it's gonna be brought to safety anyway by, let's say, f3 and king f2. And thinking long term, black could have some problems. What to oppose for white's dark square bishop? Yeah, but like I said, I mean, I don't remember specific theory here. I think it was something like this. Takes. Yeah, now I don't know. I don't remember, to be honest. Yeah, and e4 again is a possible move, but knight e2, some ideas to play b4, b5, either bishop a3 and bishop b2. And for black, it's not really. Maybe queen c2. It's horse in your language. Okay. Yeah, maybe queen. I mean, just wanted to show this idea. And the point is, why black is playing bishop takes on c3, there's another critical line. Short castle, knight e5. Rook e8 and knight g5. I think so. Yeah. Quite a funny way to checkmate black. But again, the whole purpose of this whole circus is that after g6, I'll try to remember. I think it was h4 here. Takes here h5. Okay, I think I don't remember correctly, but somehow even here white got the advantage of the two bishops. Again. So that's the minimal advantage from this opening. This is why white is playing this, and this is why black has to play it out aggressively to counter white's ambition. Yeah, and yeah, the Catalan, for example, there's also, let me show you very quickly. This used to be quite a popular line some years ago at the pro level, top pro level. Some very high level GMs were playing this. I don't even know what it's called, some neo-Catalan. Not playing d4 quickly. So after queen a4 check, there's this new move, bishop d7, which, okay, today is already not new move. And c5, intending to play bishop c6, and white immediately gains the two bishop advantage. Knight e5, targeting bishop b7, here. I think that's Grishik's move, which now it's one of the main moves in this position, unless, of course, theory has changed in the last couple of months, which I highly doubt. Takes knight d7 is better, but let's put this position, and again, white just got two bishops. And you can very carefully, patiently play it out. Black has nothing to show for the given up light square bishop. And this is my game against Yuri Krikon, a young FIDE master, I think, from Belarus. So very carefully, slowly developing the pieces, e3 taking care of the d4 square, bringing the king to e2 here, and trying to provoke some weaknesses at the king side. Yeah, and then I managed to sacrifice an exchange. Yeah, but okay, that's completely different matter. But this approach is quite popular. I mean, there's probably knight d7 is the best move. Aronian, I think I've played this number of times, and there's queen b5, knight c3, d3, bishop e3, and white heavily relies on the power of this bishop on g2. So it might come the moment when white is going to enjoy the power of the two bishops, since the bishop on c1 at the moment is not doing much. But again, if you would be given this opportunity, let's say your opponent is offering equal trade of the dark square bishops, I think it makes sense to decline. Think about the long-term possibility for the two bishop advantage. When we are aiming to open the position very carefully to play it out, we are going to have one powerful light square bishop and one powerful dark square bishop. So that's at least our ambition. Okay. I think this was it. Maybe some final quick questions while I can answer them. I told you everything I wanted to tell about the power of the two bishops. I mean, obviously, this is a big topic. Anybody there? G3, bishop G2, what about that? Chekhov is still there. That's okay. Yeah. And what about G3, bishop G2? Yeah, that's not sure what did you wanted to say about this. Is it playable? Yeah, it's probably playable. Are you getting advantage? No, you're not getting advantage. But you can play. You can play whatever you want. Yeah. Yeah, so as my parting words, I would like again to remind that, yeah, thank you, ZZZ Chess. I've created a brand new chess club at chess.com. If you use the command club, !club, I would appreciate that you would find the time to join the club, which is slowly becoming the place where I'm organizing various activities with the members of the people who are watching my streams, who enjoy the content which I'm producing. I'm still doing streams 4 times per week. Mondays it's chess variants, Wednesdays I'm solving puzzles, weekly puzzle fix. Fridays, which is today, is my boot camps, various educational streams. And on Sundays, I typically blitz. Yeah. Sometimes there's some changes in my schedule, like something pops up and I have to make some adjustments to my schedule, but I typically announce it before. And I try to use this club for this because that's my communication with you guys when I'm offline. So I try to check it every day. So what else? My next stream probably still don't know. Maybe it's under some. There's some possibility that it might not happen about the Sunday stream, but I'll keep you posted anyway in the club, within the club. Again, if you like the content, please find the time to subscribe. I would appreciate it. As you see, I have a new sub goal. I'm aiming for a goal of the amount of subs, and after I'll reach it, I'll make a new simul against the subs and stream it live. A classical chess time control, and stream all of this and explain everything in detail. So that was it. Hope you like my streams. Thank you for asking questions. And I'll be seeing you probably in a couple of days. So, yeah. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, everybody who was here. Appreciate it that you were here. And see you in my next streams. Take care. Have a great Friday. Bye-bye.